Alright guys, today we have Craig with us, handstand performer and teacher from the UK.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe you can give us a little background of you and yeah, share
Sure.
some things with the people.
Yeah. With the people. Yeah. My first main kind of general training thing was I was a sports acro base.
Mhm.
So I did that when I was like a teenager,
Mhm.
between age 13 and 16, and then I did my own training for like a couple years, and then I realized I needed a teacher,
Mhm.
and so then I went to the National Centre for Circus Arts
Mhm.
in London. So I was there for from when I was like 19, 3 years. So then I graduated in 2015, and I've been doing, yeah, freelance performing and teaching ever since. Yeah.
Okay. And how was it like at the academy? Like, was it like a kind of circus school? You
Mm.
did different disciplines, and or was it just only handstand? Or
At the Circus School in London,
mhm.
the National Centre, it was you had like one main discipline,
Mhm.
um, and then you could train other things if you wanted,
Mhm.
but you had like some kind of general classes and stuff. But they were trying to get like all round performers,
Mhm.
so like you had different options because like whether you wanted to do more like kind of freelance solo work or company work. So we also had like movement and dance and theatre
Mhm.
and clowning and like those kinds of classes. But you had but my discipline classes
Mhm.
were like just in handstands. But I did a lot of with my background in sports acro and stuff.
Mhm.
I did that's when I learned how to do some flying and like group acro, hand to hand
Nice.
kind of stuff. So I did that on the side with a group of people.
And now you're a performer.
Hmm.
And you only perform handstand, or you still do other stuff that you learned at the circus?
Do other stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
like the main things which I perform are like hand balance
Mhm.
and then like, some hand to hand stuff.
Mhm.
But like more, I do more some like ground acrobatics, like a little bit of like clowning and stuff, which we also did like as part of the theatre and stuff.
Mhm.
We learned some of that side of things. I've also done some aerial
Mhm.
stuff, so like more duo and things, but yeah, like quite like a general wide variety most of the time. Handstands, hand to hand, but like I've also done shows doing some aerial here and like a bit of duo there, and can you do that? Yeah, so I have a background in a lot of it,
Mhm.
so I can do some things.
So it's like a generalist circus method, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I also like enjoy training,
Mhm.
and so like being able to pick up different things, especially group disciplines.
Mhm.
It's nice to be like, oh, let's try and do duo straps and
Mhm.
duo trapeze, and I've also trained some straps just because it works quite well with handstands because like of opposites and stuff.
Mhm.
So I did used to train straps a fair amount, but I didn't perform it so much.
And it's but straps is also just a nice
Yeah.
complementary discipline for the handstand,
Yeah,
isn't it?
for sure. Yeah, especially like the basics,
Mhm.
like the foundations, really complementary. When you get quite far into it, then it can like pull your body in funny ways, and
Mhm.
handstands also can pull your body in funny ways, and so they don't necessarily complement as well after a point, like I found personally,
Mhm.
but they're definitely the foundations of conditioning stuff. Really good. They
And
do it really good.
and how was it like when you entered the school? Like you already had a good handstand, or you worked the first years on just building a general handstand? And
From between when I finished sports acro and going, I did a lot of training on my own, and
mhm.
this was like what was it, 14? I started between 14 years ago, 10, 14 years ago, and that was like I remember like when calisthenics was like not such a thing, but I wouldn't call it calisthenics, but
Mhm.
I played around with like body weight training and this and that, and but I enjoyed handstands a lot,
Mhm.
and so I could when I went to the circus school I could do like a minute's handstand,
Mhm.
like not a great shape, but okay. And then I could like press a couple of times. I could do a couple of handstand push-ups. So, and I had good flexibility.
Mhm.
So my like prerequisites were really high.
Mhm.
So then like when I started, I spent the first couple months like realigning my handstand.
Mhm.
And then and then after that, so I managed to progress quite quickly, especially because I did a fair amount of training on canes when I was there. So I progressed quite quickly because I had spent years doing two-arm handstands and conditioning and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So
And then was it like you had from the beginning you had a specialization in handstand, or came it later, like in the second semester or something like this?
yeah, so you spend the first couple of months trying everything.
Mhm.
You have a very full schedule, and you like try little bits of everything,
Mhm.
and then you can like try out particular disciplines.
Mhm.
And I had like 6 that I like wanted to try out. One of them, they were like, "Oh, we don't have space for that," which was we call it German wheel. I don't know what you guys call it, with the bit like steer wheel, but the two of them.
Mhm.
And like I wanted to try it, and they were like, "We don't have space for it," so I couldn't do it. And I was like, "Fair enough." But yeah, like I tried handstands, straps, Chinese pole, duo trapeze, and cloud swing.
Mhm.
And I tried them all, and I was like, definitely not cloud swing. Too scary for me. Those people are crazy. They're amazing. Not for me. And then duo trapeze I enjoyed, but I didn't want to do duo stuff. Same with like, and then Chinese pole straps, good, but because handstands take such a long time, that it made more sense to start with handstands.
Mhm.
And if I wanted to do more other things later, then like I spoke to a couple of professionals, and they were like, if you do handstands first, other things can come quicker.
Mhm.
Whereas if you do other things first, handstands still take a very long time. So
And then you learned, or you got the introduction to the one-arm handstand also in the circus school.
yeah,
Did you learn it there?
yeah, yeah. So like I can't remember the timeline exactly, but
Mhm.
yeah, towards the end of my first year, so like I like started like yeah, I like on canes. I did a lot of training on canes.
Mhm.
My floor training like was actually quite far behind,
Mhm.
so like I spent a lot of time training on canes because it was good fun. It was playing around, and like it was this quite new thing because I'd never done it. So then I spent a lot of time on canes because I picked that up very quickly. Um, Obviously, it's a lot faster than floor. And how the canes moved worked pretty well for my body. So I learned very quickly. And then, so like, by the end of the first year, I was doing like a few different one arms and stuff.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, like a couple of transitions and stuff. And, but yeah, so
And did the teacher also give you a lot of structure, or let you play a lot?
in classes, it was very structured. We did
Mhm.
play sometimes, but like we, we, um, we did like technical in class. We did classes 4, 5 times a week. One was always flags, and then the other ones were like technique,
Mhm.
up and down blocks,
Mhm.
side to side, like warming up on like with a spot, and then would do most of the rest of the class like sometimes with a spot, but generally on canes, no
Mhm.
spot, and just like because it just takes time and repetitions,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
a lot of the time you're like trying, you're falling, and teacher like it's called Senna. It's very good. He's like, it's fine. Like, it takes time, and like, he was very good for me in the sense of like, perspective of it's
Mhm.
okay. You're not gonna get it yet. It's like, we do more. It's fine. It will come. It's getting better. So that was really good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like, the class is very structured, and then he gave me like conditioning and stuff, which I then did with a friend, with Sammy Deneen. We just like condition after school a lot, and so like, from like halfway through my first year for like 2 years, we would like do like handstand conditioning together like 4 times a week. It was great. It was really good.
And how
Yeah.
big were the group, like in the specialization for the handstand? Was it big
Uh,
or small?
no, there were 2 of us in my year.
Just two.
Yeah,
Oh,
which at the beginning is perfect because like you need to rest.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you alternated, and then I think in the second year you actually have just one-on-ones
Oh,
and
wow.
stuff. Yeah, really. And then that means like when you're not doing the handstand,
Mhm.
you're doing stretching, or like you're doing like conditioning stuff for flexibility.
Mhm.
So like it's an hour class, and it's pretty full on because you're either in a handstand, or you're in the splits, or you're like being stretched, or like that kind of stuff.
And how did you so you choose to be specialized in
Mm.
handstand, and were there many other people that also maybe choose to specialize, and was there a limited amount of spots for this discipline, or?
They can be depending on the discipline. With handstands, because it doesn't take a lot of space
Yeah.
at that school, like they don't mind so much. But they are generally quite good at being realistic on what people's bodies are gonna like.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd done a lot of stuff and I had good mobility and my prep was really good.
yeah, yeah.
So it was like, okay, if I wanted handstands, it's okay, but you also want after, like, because you specialize after a couple of months,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you generally have then about 2.5 years of training because of when you finish and stuff. So you have to be realistic about how far can someone get in 2.5 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so like they try to like lean people towards things which they
Mhm.
will be able to perform and start working with, or at least have a good foundation with if they want to go to another school.
And what was the typical age of people that are starting in the school? Like,
Yeah. When I was there, most people were like, I'd say half of the people in my year were like 18.
Yeah.
Like, but then a couple were a few years older, and then a few were like probably like later 20s. If I looked at the couple of years ahead of me, they were. It used to be like quite a lot of like older people coming in, like some younger, but mostly older. But now it's generally a lot of like 18, 19-year-olds. It's generally much younger people who start now, I think, because just the people that they get in is different. The people who audition are different and with different backgrounds. So, yeah.
and was it like you had to pay for the school, or was it like some kind of sponsored thing? I don't know the name for it.
That's
or-
it. Well, like it's technically like a university course thing in the UK. So the way the like student loans work in the UK is that they like pay for it, and then once you're earning over a certain amount, you pay back a percentage,
Ah,
and
okay.
it's quite low. So it's like a kind of, so it's not like they call it a student loan, but it's not a traditional loan. It's like dependent upon income. So it's and it's not a super high percentage you have to pay back. So yeah, like over a lifetime, I'll still be paying back and stuff.
yeah.
But actually, the cost of it per month is actually quite low, and only over a certain amount. So it's quite good.
And was it how was the performing part then? Did you also perform when you were a student, or was it after the 3 years that you're starting to perform? Or
Towards like so my third year, I'd start doing like some performing things. Not a lot because you're trying to focus on the training,
yeah,
but obviously performing handstands and training handstands, very different kind of skill set. And so like you trying to like start doing things is like really important. And there's a good when I was there would be a lot of like professionals in the space as well. So you could really like meet professionals who are working and like chat to them and like really try to understand the industry, because it's really hard to know like what it's actually like when you're in the school. So it's really good to be able to meet people, talk to people, and like get an understanding. We used to do these like we called them scratches, like where you could just do anything, like as the students would do it, and the whole like point was you could just show people what you were doing. But with handstands, it's super important. So basically, once a month, I would just try and do some handstands in front of 30, 40, 50 people, and just try to do it. And if I fall, okay, try to like calm down and then go again. And it's a really great way to start doing some kind of performing where it's a generous audience who understand that you're learning, but there's a bit of pressure because they're your peers. So it's like learning how to like, you're like, training this and this, it's fine. And you get in front of people and you're like, I can't, and it's like, and you fall and you come down. It's like, okay. And that was a big thing for me of like not getting like here. So like, yeah.
And it's
It's
also
good.
like I learned from my teacher like you have to make a set a 9 out of 10 before you can perform it, because it gets like double or triple time harder than doing it in training.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
you don't perform your hardest skill, you perform your consistent skill once you
Yeah.
nail it down a consistent time. And
Yeah. No, absolutely. And this idea of like, you want to perform like the best you can, and like that when I was a student, like put together like the best things of all the hardest skills, and that's amazing. I think that there's a certain stress with doing that, and depending on how often you're doing the shows, that changes what the maximum the hardest thing you can do is.
Yeah, yeah,
But then also, if I'm performing, like handstands is the medium, it's what I'm doing,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
but the skill is performing.
Ah,
And so like it took me a few years to kind of like work this in my own mind,
mm-hmm.
and it's like, okay, I'm doing handstands,
Yeah,
but actually the skill that I'm trying to show here is performing.
yeah,
And so to like, maybe you don't do your hardest tricks, but you're doing them in a way which works better with an audience. And for the audience, the response and the experience is better, which is the whole point of performing.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
like, there's absolutely a place for doing the hardest thing you can. But for me, it is kind of a shift, like a mental shift of trying to put in everything else into it to make it a great performance,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just pushing technique in performance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah.
And was it like you also speak to the audience, or was it with music, or
Yes.
both?
So like, no, I in my second year, like you do like a solo performance thing, and I remember trying speaking and this, and I had no background in speaking and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and like the handstands were pretty good, and the speaking was not very clear, and
Mm-hmm.
it was, yeah, and speaking on stage is still something that I struggle with, like being clear and like not putting all the words together and but yeah, using text on stage, like one of the shows that I've been doing is it's called Elephant in the Room,
Mm-hmm.
and like there it's theatre and circus and movement and acrobatics, and there's text in that.
Ah.
So like I do enjoy it, and
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably the thing that I struggle with the most of trying to do it, because it's not my main training.
Yeah.
I think it's when people do it well, it's incredible, and I try and I try and I try, but it's a really hard skill to try and speak and do the theatre and the clowning and
Mm-hmm.
that side of things, and then switch into circus and then try and keep it with the circus and not just do one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I do. Yeah.
And how was it like to maybe get into the show business after the school, like with the contracts, or how do you you made probably also a lot of connection maybe in the
Mm.
school, and then how was life first like when you got into the performance business,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, the London scene.
Mhm.
London's great for some things, but it's quite a bubble.
Mhm.
I was a little bit fortunate that when I first started performing, a friend who was in the same year as me,
Mhm.
a friend of hers was in starting off like a French company,
Mhm.
and so I went and worked with them. So I would get out of London to like not just be there, but I did spend a lot of time in the like UK, London
Mhm.
freelance scene, and like UK touring company work is like you do a couple of shows here and a couple of shows there, and then you're in London doing like some like cabarets and corporates, and yeah, like I enjoyed it, but I never like pushed for it.
Mhm.
And then I kind of got stuck in it, and I realized that I was like, I should actually do something else, because you like there's this London bubble churn of
Yeah.
like do things, this, that, what are we doing? And so, and then I realized after quite a few years, I was like, maybe I should do more contract work and
Mhm.
like these things. And that's when, and then it just happened, started working with Circle and doing Elephant in the Room,
Mhm.
and I did a little bits here and there, and like short projects with different companies and stuff, and that was good. And then I started enjoying that more. But it was good at the beginning. I was working in like France a bit, and then I realized that I had to get out of the UK, and like meeting people not in London
Mhm.
was more important for making connections than meeting people in London.
Mm.
You can meet people in London and it's great,
Mm.
but there's just something about it where I found it was much better to meet people in other places.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, yeah, I started doing that more, and that was super great. Yeah.
And what were some crazy places that you did perform in, like a wedding, or maybe a show with some singing,
Crazy places.
or general
No,
places
yeah.
like?
Yeah, there's a lot of variety of things. Like you do, because like corporate things, you do some of these like massive hotels, or like
Mhm.
someone like hires out a museum, and then you're like doing this performance for like I know, bar mitzvah in this like museum, and like that's all quite cool. And then but I also like, and then with and then at one point I did like a short project with Circus, and then that was in Australia, and it was like you're working with this orchestra, and like so then there's like group stuff, and then I had like this kind of handstand like a couple of minutes on canes and stuff, but there's like a full orchestra and like a choir, and then like this big that quite, you feel a lot because the music is right behind you. And but then like with the French company we were outside, so you might be performing in like pouring rain, and like
Wow.
that was so like like a lot of like little different things, and like really good fun. I feel like I've probably forgotten things, but like I liked doing a lot of different things, so I ended up in a lot of random places in different conditions.
And you have some advice for maybe the future generation who wants to also join the circus or be a part of the performing world or something like this?
Advice. That's it's. I think it's probably advice that I was given and I didn't follow it for years. But like, there are so many different things you can do that the sooner you try something, and like the sooner you know whether you want to do it or not. And instead of like waiting in the background, which I feel like I did a lot, like pushing to like try different things and be in different spaces. People are nicer than you think they will be, and just go in and be nice to people, and then it's super nice to like meet people and do things, and that will open a lot of doors. But yeah, travel to meet people and like train places. Yeah, just turn up in random places and get to know people. Like find a space which is good for training what you want to do, and turn up. Like just try and do a thing. And you might not know people, but I went to it must have been, wait, what year are we in? So this must have been, I went to Kiev in January, just before all that stuff happened. And I wanted to go there for years, and I never did. Because I was like, oh, I don't know, they're all incredible. Like, Ukrainians are incredible hand balancers.
I was training in Kiev.
Like, I was there for a week, and I was like, why did I not do this? Because the whole thing of like, oh, I'm not good enough, and this and that. And it's like, you need to remember, it's fine. You will turn up, and there will be a 10-year-old doing things that I will never perform and never do. And that's great, and that's super awesome. But being around it is amazing. And like, so just being there and meeting people and just seeing people is amazing. And it took me way too long to go there. And so like, I'm really glad I did, but like, I did like other places and stuff. But yeah, turn up, it was nice. Be uncomfortable more often. That's like, for myself, that's like a consistent thing. And so that's, I think, probably, the best advice I can
some great
give.
advice right here. And thank you so much for having
You're very welcome.
insight in the circus world, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Hope
thank
do
you.
the same.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's wonderful. It's great. We should do this again.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, sounds good.